company that does particularly evil stuff. Why is that?
Well, because he's evil. I mean, I don't use the word evil very much. I think it's overused. But if you take it as the opposite of live, spelt backwards, the opposite of life, then evil is very appropriate with him. I mean, he was the man that brought aspartame.
Oh, my God.
Brain suppressant and brain destroyer.
And he gave the reactors in North Korea. Listen to this. Listen to this. Mr. Bonomo was studying a parasite which can spread from cats to human fetuses. See, it's a kill human weapon. Mr. Frez's research was into bacteria which create ethanol for use as fuel. Boy, these go ahead.
We've had so many scientists at the cutting edge of their profession in these very areas you're talking about who have been taken out over the years. I mean, there was even a book written about them at one point. So many were taken out, and they would be eating their meal in London. They would get up from it, drive to Bristol, which is a decent drive, where they had no family connections. They'd jump off the big suspension bridge there. There's one after the other that came from the same office.
And, of course, all the surveillance cameras can never catch anything because they always turn off.
Well, we managed to have a situation where a Brazilian was shot 8 times, 7 times in the head while being held down at close range. And, of course, the surveillance pictures didn't come out. Obviously, it wasn't working, mate.
Listen to this. Frenchman killed in London was stabbed 196 times. They had been tortured ritualistically.
Well, you see, this is, again, something that I've been talking about for a long, long time, and it seems so extreme. I know you have too. It seems so extreme that it's beyond people's ability to grasp that it's possible. But what you're talking about here is something that goes on behind the scenes in secret as a matter of course across the world, because the rituals these people are involved in are absolutely horrendous. And clearly, every now and again, one breaks the surface, and you can get a glimpse of what is the common thing behind the scenes that seems the rarity, but it's not. It's the rarity when it comes to public attention.
Amazing. DavidIcke.com. We're going to take some calls now for David. But we've only got 10 minutes left. But, David, just briefly, what is the time frame? Do you think they're going to hit Iran? If they do, how do you see that unfolding?
Well, I tell you what I learned a long time ago, which is kind of, going towards it. I was told that there was going to be a conflict with China. That's where it was leading. What they wanted was a third world war that would complete the process, which the First World War started, League of Nations. The Second World War took on United Nations.
Then they can ration and have drafts and crack down.
They want to bring in the world government so they can say, hey, look, the only way to stop war, it's like they said about the European Union, let's have a European Union and trade together and then we'll stop wars in Europe. The only way to stop war is to have a world government and a world army. And the end of national armies, so there's no more war. And so they want a massive global conflict. And China, I was told, must have been 15 years ago that was where it was going to head. And I think the Middle East is designed to be the powder keg that starts to draw them in, and Iran could well be it. You see, I may be different to most people. I have real problems with the guy who's leading Iran. For him to come to power when he did, to take over or defeat someone who was perceived globally as a moderate, which would have been very, very difficult.
Which is what the people wanted.
Yeah, it would have been very, very difficult to sell Iran as a danger to the world if he'd have won. But this guy came in and then started speaking the language that allowed them to say, hey, this man's dangerous. I've got great reservations about that.
Well, we know Reagan made deals for the arms for hostages. That was all staged. And so we know there's major connections. Let's take some calls for David Icke, always intriguing, author, documentary filmmaker, lecturer. Tim in Ohio, you're on the air. Go ahead, Tim.
Woody Harrelson once said in a movie, only 2 good things ever came out of England, America and the Beatles. I think it's time we update that list to the Watson brothers and you, David Icke. Good to talk to you, mate.
Thank you very much. It's very kind.
Alex, it was David that led me to you through some of his books. It was sort of like, your Chemistry 101. David was the catalyst, and you were the monomer. And as you know, I've been gum on your shoe for like 6 years now, and I consider you both best friends that I've never met. David, I own 4 of your books. On the bottom of page 206 in The Biggest Secret, there's a picture in the Bohemian Grove of Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon with the inventor of plutonium, Glenn Seaborg.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that picture put on one of you guys' sites and people just mass mail it to Michael Reagan and ask him to please explain.
Actually, I think we have that photo on Infowars.com.
That picture.
Well, I mean, that picture was so symbolic of the way that you've got two people. One was a B-movie actor jumping on and off his horse at the time. The other one was a soon-to-be politician that was taking on Kennedy in the 1960 election. And both, despite those vastly different backgrounds, were both at Bohemian Grove and both go on to be presidents of the United States.
And by the way, you forgot that Eisenhower is also in the photo.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, because Eisenhower rose so rapidly in the military, and you only do that, and then to president, you only do that if the right people are behind you. And now we have Barack Obama, of course, bringing in change. I mean, you know, do me a favor, you know.
Total new world order.
That was my question.
Brzezinski for president, I say.
Look, it doesn't matter, McCain, Obama, but Obama's got the really heavy hitters behind him. He's going to be bad news. Thank you, Tim. But he'll fool a lot of people for one more ride, one more scam.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to hear Barack Obama say they're carrying out eugenics against blacks like nobody else. No, he'll be attacked by the white racists, and then, he must be good for the blacks, and then he'll lead the blacks right into the Planned Parenthoods. John in Ohio, you're on the air.
Yes, I agree with Mr. Ike that the ultimate target of the neocons is China, and the stepping stones are Iraq and Iran. I totally agree with that. They even said so in the Project for a New American Century. But I think right now the box that the media is trying to keep us in is that there's some kind of difference between Obama and McCain, and I think in a certain sense the greater danger is Obama, because so many people have been convinced through cult of personality that there's some kind of a difference. I think you made a good point there about how the neocons got their start in the Democratic Party through the Henry Jackson faction, the military-industrial faction of the Democratic Party before they joined the Republicans. And I think there's so many people right at this point now that somehow make excuses for Obama when he gets on his knees.
I hear you, John. We got to jump. We got to jump so we get the other callers. Yes, bottom line, this is the false left paradigm. It's time for people to grow up, and until you realize they own all the major parties, and until you realize the power structure, people think the president is the end-all, be-all. He isn't, is he, David?
No, I mean the president's a puppet. I mean, I have this line. If you can see him, he's not at the top of the pyramid. I mean, the people who are really pulling the strings are in the shadows. Probably, no one's ever heard of them. The real power.
Graham in Seattle.
These are just cardboard cutouts who are vehicles to introduce the legislation that changes society in line with the shadow people's agenda.
And then we have a debate about whoever they put out in front of us instead of never looking above that to the real power structure. Graham in Seattle.
Hi, David. Hello,
Graham.
Good to hear you on, and I definitely agree with a lot of what you're saying, but one of the major ways that I feel like people dismiss ideas about 9/11 being an inside job or, various depopulation schemes and whatnot, I'm looking at a Times Online article about you from June 27th. It says, "Reptilians beware, David Icke is back." And it says, according to Mr. Icke, David Icke, I'm sorry for pronouncing your name wrong. According to Mr. Icke's belief, the world is ruled by a secret group of Illuminati